Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Property Hustler Show. My name is Andrew, and today, Skylar and I are going to be talking about emigration from Canada. Not immigration, emigration. People leaving Canada. We start to see it on the headlines all the time here and there. The stats are definitely rising in terms of people leaving, but we also know that we have a ton of immigration, so people are obviously coming to the country. So we're going to talk about that a little bit. Why is it that people are coming to the country, and why is it that people are leaving? It's obviously not the same people coming that are leaving. What does that look like, and why is this happening? So, Skylar, let's get into it.
It's cool that we're sitting here talking about this problem, and maybe someone out there wants to hear us talk about it, but what I want to hear is that on Thursday, June 8th, is the 80th anniversary of D-Day, okay, where we lost just over 1,000 Canadian lives in that attack, fighting for Canada.
That's an interesting way to open this up.
They're fighting for Canada,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
That's why we were over there,
Okay, yeah.
right? We want to live free, and now, look what's happening. You have those, grandchildren leaving, moving to the States,
Yeah.
moving down, in Southern America.
Yeah. By the way, I understand the sentiment of what you're saying because there are a lot of people who feel this way. There are a lot of people who I've spoken to who talk about the reasons why they're considering leaving the country. And it's interesting because it's like when they talk about what their families came here to build or what their families, in fact, like you said, they fought for, was this kind of Canadian dream, right? It was this idea of what it is that we could have where, when we start even looking at what it was that the previous generation had compared to what the next generation has today, you hear grandparents that will talk about like how in their day, the working man could have a job. The wife didn't have to work. They would have a boat. They would have a car. They would have a house and a cottage.
Yeah.
That was...
They go up on weekends.
Yeah.
Working on weekends was not a thing. Everything's closed on Sundays.
Exactly.
Nothing's open on Sundays.
Exactly. That was achievable.
Yeah.
Right? And then today, it seems like, I remember I read in the news where they said that if you own a cottage, you're no longer part of the middle class.
Yeah, that's crazy.
You're now like part of the wealthy.
Yeah.
And it's like completely disregarded. That was a very normal thing, what is relatively speaking not too long ago. So if we start to look at the trajectory of where we are, is this really a healthy direction?
Yeah, and it's a sad thing to see driving around Hamilton and seeing people live in parks. That's not what parks were meant for. And, I bring up D-Day, but your grandfather or your great-grandfather fought in the war and was trying to build a better future for you.
Yep.
And here you are living in a tent.
Yep.
Right? Here you are struggling to pay extra hydro for your air conditioner.
Yeah.
It should not be like this. It needs to be fixed. It's only going to get worse. And I don't know how you get from my rock bottom is probably different than a lot of other people's rock bottoms. Living in a tent in a park for all these people, another level of rock bottom of losing that park, even though I disagree that maybe they shouldn't be in parks, but worst case scenario after worst case scenario after worst case scenario.
Yeah. Personally, I attribute a lot of the problems that are happening not just to, things are somehow just getting worse. I feel like our country at large has gone into a stage where we ignore what is common sense. Like we ignore some of the problems and we kind of like talk around them, and there's no more action takers, right? Everything that it is that we say is a problem, first of all, we have to do studies on it. Where if you look at it, people back in the day, they would just make a decision on this. Like the answer is obvious. Why do we have to like study something that is pretty straightforward?
Yeah, I wouldn't say ignore because it's very hard to ignore what we're seeing. What I would like to say is why the problem, it's all politics. And these are hard decisions that make you lose your job.
Yeah.
If you came down and said, homeless, no more people living in parks, you need to have an apartment, the city needs to build X amount of units for affordable housing, and if it doesn't get done, X, Y, Z is going to happen, whoever's saying that's losing his job, right? Your boss, it's not going to happen.
It's not right. And that's where I feel that the Canadian government is not really taking care of the people who are taking strides. I feel that they're focusing on people who are not going to necessarily continue to stimulate the economy, our country into a positive direction. At large, I don't think so. Let's bring it back really quickly to who's coming and who's leaving and why.
Okay.
Obviously, immigration is crazy. I think in a year, we brought in well over 1 million people, right? Those people are coming from which countries? You want to talk about that?
Yeah, we've seen a lot of spikes. I can tell you this firsthand because I see who's renting the apartments, who's applying for the apartments. A year ago, 2 years ago, a lot of Ukraine refugees were coming over. We have always had a big influx of people from the Middle East coming over.
Yes.
Now, what I see though, how I operate my business, but the people applying don't have no credit, no income. If it is income, it's fresh and new income. Fresh and new income is not a lot of income.
Yeah, makes it hard to apply for apartments.
Yes, visitor visa, waiting for your PR card, your permanent resident card to come in.
That's really hard.
Really hard. So that's what I'm seeing. And it's not, if I were to think that I'm leaving, if I'm Ukrainian and I'm leaving a war-torn country to come to another country that is not in the middle of a war, a successful country, it shouldn't be like that.
No. Somebody coming from a place like that should not think about it and be like, maybe I should go back home. It's crazy.
Or I just got denied for housing.
Oh, yeah.
That's a problem.
So that's like a non-starter.
Yeah. And it's kind of crazy how the government just allows immigrants to come in here without those type of plans.
Yeah.
We're going to rely on the backs of landlords to approve them.
While villainizing them.
While we don't have their backs.
Yeah, exactly. It's crazy. It is an excellent point. Province by province, we have different immigration numbers from different countries.
Yeah.
At large, Canadian immigration was something in around 40% from India. And then we got an influx of Ukrainians. And then we also took in a lot of immigrants from Philippines. I think the last one, China. We're getting a lot, but actually less from China.
Yeah.
The last couple of years relative to before. And that also has in part to do with real estate saturation and also some of the education programs getting clamped down on. Right? Because that's how a lot of them used to get in citizenship, right? Or, a student visa and then a working visa and then being able to apply for landed immigrant status, right? So at large, they're coming from these three places. So India, Philippines, and China, those are the largest numbers. And then you can start to see that they come into different provinces and focus. Actually, Philippines are more heavily immigrating to places like the prairies. So you have some of the middle provinces. Ontario is largely has a large focus from India, and that also has to do with the education programs. And then BC is China. I think that's also because of the community, right? Maybe we can arguably say that it's closer to China than it is Ontario, right? Something like that. So we obviously have a ton of people coming in, right? They're coming in, and I think the reason why it may be desirable for some people to come in from some of these countries is because it is in fact better. It is a step up, I think, for many people, despite, I think, the isolated incidences where people say that, okay, there's a little more problems.
Yeah, our problems are different than their problems. Yeah. It doesn't mean that they're not problems. It's just maybe their problems are more humanitarian problems, not clean drinking water, stuff that maybe we do take for granted here.
Yes.
And then our problems are more economy and
you know what? Actually, I don't even know exactly like what the conditions were that the majority of immigrants coming from these countries were, because I think in some cases a lot of them needed to have come from some kind of money in order to be able to come to begin with, right? But those are the people coming in. And the country is looking at the people coming in and trying to give them certain favor. Like, did you hear the thing about how they want to now allow new immigrants to have certain financial incentives when applying for jobs?
Okay.
Right? Which means that Canadians that have been here for generations are now going to have an edge over them by new immigrants.
Yeah.
Right? What do you do about that?
Yeah. They keep on adding these little perks. There's a new one that if you're a new immigrant, you're allowed to visit any national park for free. But I have to pay $9 to get it. It's $9. Like, we're not fighting over the $9, but it's like, shouldn't they just be free then?
Yeah, you'd think so.
But these are politicians making,
business decisions.
Business decisions. It's not business people making political decisions.
Yeah, exactly. So there is that. So there are people. So these people are all coming into the countries and they're getting some certain incentives by the government. And there's a lot of Canadians that feel that the country is no longer looking out for them. Yeah. And that's why you start to see these articles coming up where people are leaving Canada. But what we are in fact experiencing is brain drain.
Yeah.
There's a lot of Canadians who have the means that have made a decision not to continue to live here.
Yeah.
Right. And the reason why it's brain drain is because these are often people who have a little more financial means, are business people, entrepreneurs, high performers in general, investors. If you lose these people, who's going to invest in the country?
Yeah.
Right.
Exactly.
And this is where you start to see the public sector employment for the first time ever dwarfing private sector. More jobs are being created by the government than ever before.
Yeah.
And private sector is dwindling. That's problematic.
Very.
Right. So these are some of the reasons why I think like a certain tier, let's just say a certain class of people are leaving Canada. Some of the surveys that were done showed that one of the main things preventing some of these particular individuals from leaving is family. They don't want to leave their families, right? They're already embedded. That may influence where they live. It might not influence where they invest.
Exactly.
Right? Even look at us, for example. Like, we still invest in Canada, but we've now shifted a considerable amount of our investing strategy to places like Cleveland, Ohio, because of that. It's close. It's not too far away. We can still leverage our network. But like
they're
the money's...
They're on our side. They're on our side.
Yeah.
They as the American government knows that they need landlords. And they depend on landlords for Section 8 housing. Section 8 housing. They rely on us for Section 8 housing, where here in Canada is total opposite, right? That's public housing. So they know that they need landlords. Our politicians think that, we don't need those landlords. Those landlords are trouble. They are greedy.
Yes.
So that's how I see the big difference, that they want us to invest and you guys don't want us to invest. It's that simple. Nobody cares about us. But if we all got up and left, there's not enough parks for those tents.
There's some places that I feel like I talk a lot about Singapore, but in Singapore, I find it's a great example because the people that I speak to from Singapore often have tons of positive things to say. I feel that a lot of Canadians, the common thing to do right now is gripe about 1,000,001 things, from traffic to taxes to housing to government to leadership leadership to schools to like social norms that are being pushed now. And it's like a lot of people feel very uncomfortable with a lot of things that are happening in the country.
Yeah.
And not a lot of people are speaking positive about it.
Yeah.
So people who have the means are just like, I'm going to go someplace else where that reflects more my values, right? But so the reason why I mentioned Singapore is because Singapore is the biggest landlord over there.
I see.
Right? The government is the landlord.
They control everything.
They control all that stuff. And like, you don't actually buy your property over there. You lease it for, I think, 100 years. So you buy a 100-year ownership lease essentially of that.
But then you have a lot of money to spend. And
yeah, there's other things. The thing is that the government takes care of them. And if the government decides to buy back your lease early, it's actually a big bonus for you and you get to upgrade your living and all kinds of other things. But the point is that the private sector over there has trouble competing with the quality that the government offers. Isn't that crazy? Here, if you think that this is government managed or government built, you expect lower quality. In Singapore, if it's government built, there you know the standard that is set.
Yeah.
It's not luxury standard, but it's like
that's different.
middle and up, right?
Huh.
Crazy, right? So our government could definitely learn a lot. Now you might say, okay, there's a lot of other things to consider where anybody listening, I don't want them to take that out of context.
Yeah.
Singapore is like an island,
Yeah.
right? It's a small place. Any investment that they do into infrastructure affects the entire country. Anything we do in Canada is like...
Yeah, we knew Toronto doesn't affect Vancouver.
No, it doesn't, right? And you have to consider what happens with them, right?
Yeah. It is cool to think how better it could be. Me, I would say I'm a very proud Canadian. I don't think I would ever move out of Canada full time. That would never be my thing. I love it here. And I want to just get back to the point where we complain about stupid things and not real important things like housing and the economy. I want to just complain about traffic.
Yeah.
Can we just please just bitch about traffic? That's all I want to do.
It's like the standard bar talk and the standard...
Yeah, can we just get back to like that level? That's all I want to get to. It's just getting so bad. And every time you drive down King Street, drive down Main Street, drive down Barton Street here in Hamilton, you see more tents.
Yeah.
You see more problems. The streets look worse.
What I would consider bar talks when people go, they would complain about like, or talk about standard things like the traffic, like the taxes, like your employer, like, some of the stuff. But now some of the bigger problems of the country at large are becoming so evident to everyday people having everyday conversations that anybody you talk to is going to be talking about, housing affordability, the tents on the street because they're everywhere, because everybody's affected by it. And the topic of conversation is no longer just traffic. Now we have like the bigger problems that have calmed down to the common level.
Yeah. And everybody seems to have, anyway, in my circle, have the same concerns and the same problems. Yeah. Right? The inflation, everything's gone up in price. There's nothing you can do anymore about, complaining about price and shopping around. Everything's just more expensive. Those days are over. Yeah. Right? I can tell you, I like looking through the flyers, going through prices. So I know what chicken breast, boneless, skinless chicken breast should be. Yeah. Right? It's $3.99 a pound was like the given during COVID. Yeah. That was the cheapest as it would ever get. Now the cheapest we'll get is $4.44 a pound, and that's across the board.
Yeah, well, that goes into one of the reasons why, again, people who have the means to leave and maybe don't have as much family tying them down and keeping them here will consider leaving. Because there's some places where you go to when you really consider the cost of everything, the cost of gas, the cost of your car, the cost of your rent or your mortgage, the cost of groceries, the cost of everything, it is in many cases cheaper to just go live someplace else. Because in Canada and in the US, sometimes we talk about, how much money we make. But if you really use these bigger numbers, like for example, in Greece, I was recently there, what the majority of people make is 850 euros. 850 euros is something in and around like
a month?
Yeah, 11 or 1200 bucks. Okay. And I'm just like, dude, the lowest you can make here is something like 2,700, so like $2,300 net and $2,200 net or something like that. Minimum wage. You're working at Tim Hortons, you're making probably something in around there, right? So a minimum wage remote job, if you were living in Greece, you'd have top of the line income, right? If you could do something like that.
Yeah. It's funny you bring that up because I just had someone apply for one of my apartments. Yes. My apartment's just a 1+1, right? 1-bedroom den. Yeah. That's it. A single person makes $45 an hour. Okay, and I have a leasing manager. The leasing manager came up to me and be like, I do have an app in, but the income's just too light. Doesn't reach the threshold.
Yeah. How much was the apartment?
$2,200, $2,300.
$2,300, yeah.
$2,300 plus utilities, yeah.
Some of the threshold criteria. Sometimes with one bedrooms, you see two dual incomes applying.
You have a nice one, $45 an hour. Yeah. That's a lot of money.
Exactly, right?
That's a lot of money.
The reason why the vetting is that way for anybody listening is because there are so many people applying for these apartments that up ups qualification criteria, because you're never just going to make it so that everybody qualifies. You're going to pick that, just say, upper 25 percentile that qualifies. You're going to select from that pool.
Yeah, how's the housing crisis that bad that that person has to rent an apartment? And then not only rent an apartment, which is a problem, that person's renting an apartment and not buying a house or buying a condo. The bigger problem is that she doesn't even meet the ratios.
Let's talk about quality of life here, as it pertains to exactly that, because it's crazy. Somebody who's making $45 an hour is often living paycheck to paycheck. People who make over $100,000 are still showing to live paycheck to paycheck and not really saving a lot, paying a lot in taxes, and the quality of life is just diminishing. Why is that happening, which is causing people to leave or consider moving to other countries?
It's simple, right?
Yeah.
The price of housing is just so high.
Yeah.
And then
even food.
And then if you can afford your rent, your electric bill is so high.
Yeah.
Your Enbridge bill is so high. Your water bill is so high. There is no breaks on any of those bills at all. It keeps on climbing. You know, we live right near Niagara Falls. Most of the powers come from Niagara Falls. It's not like the price of that water going over that falls for hundreds of years got more expensive.
The unionized maintenance guys might have had like a serious price hike.
Yeah, but like, come on. Like, it doesn't, it comes to a point where it's like,
you have to build it today and then charge for it.
Yeah, it's nuts.
Yeah.
Nuts. Everybody be having cold showers.
Exactly. And they'd be happy to do it in order to save. Have you seen those jokes where it's like, yeah, if I want to save money, I've been considering really just stop eating.
Yeah.
In order to save money.
Yeah.
Right? It's crazy. Let's talk about that, because I know that has been something I've been hearing for a lot of people. There's been people who always felt like, okay, I'm respectively doing pretty decently, but I can't really go out to eat casually. And, these are two people collectively making, I think, $170,000 a year. Yeah. And they're just like, yeah, no, we're cutting back on going out to eat. It's like, why? I say, well, anytime we go out, it's hard for two people to go out and have a decent time without spending $150 to $200. I'm talking about going for like pho. I'm talking about if you just want to go to a place that actually maybe serves wine. And I'm not trying to say, or just you're going to have a beer, right? Yeah. Dude, I went to Rainforest Cafe. I was shocked. Like, it was because I took my cousins to Niagara Falls.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
The burger there, it was like $40, pushing $40. It had a US price, Canadian price, right? It was pushing $40.
Yeah.
A pint was like $20, pushing $20.
Yeah.
And then they had like a few other things where like basic things. They had stupid things. The point is that like an entree was still like, between $30 and $40. And the thing about that place is that, it's cool. It's a cool environment for somebody who hasn't seen that before. Not expecting like high quality food there or anything. Not at least as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, but even if you go out for dinner here and you get a burger and fry is $20.
Yeah.
You're not getting a cheaper burger fry than that. A beer's $12. No matter where you go, it's expensive.
Yeah, but the thing is that sometimes it feels a little disproportionate because, for example, like there was like 5 of us in total, right? And the thing about that, because we're Greek, is that one person is going to grab the bill ultimately.
Yeah.
And I was looking at it, I'm just like, we're going to spend easily like, $400 here with tip.
Yeah.
All right. And it's not even that we really explicitly want to go out. We just needed to eat. My cousin saw it. He's like, yeah, I don't want to eat here. So he was like, okay, fine. You don't want to eat here. He's just like, I wanted to pay, but I don't want to pay this. Let's go someplace else. So we went someplace else, whatever, don't care. Proportionally, you see the cost of these things like going up everywhere. Even McDonald's, man, it's weirdly expensive.
Yeah.
Right. I hate to be the one like talking about that because I eat a lot at home, cooks a lot. And like a lot of this is because of like how we look at health and we want to make sure to be cooking more. We've always been like that. We never used to go out too much anyway, but I see it, right? When you want to eat for convenience, it's like you can go to fast food. You're still spending like $15, $18. Like,
yeah, you're not saving money.
Yeah. Like
it's convenience. It's convenient.
I bought some fast food for like one of our construction crews, and I remember I ordered 4 meals. It's like 60 something odd dollars, right?
Yeah.
And just for them to like eat.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, it's expensive.
Crazy.
It's expensive. You bring up Rainforest Cafe. I love Niagara Falls, New York. I love going over to Buffalo, but Niagara Falls, New York, because of shopping. I wouldn't say it's cheaper, depending on what you buy. The selection's better. Where you see the difference is when you go for dinner. When you go for dinner in the States, and we're talking Niagara Falls, New York, we're in Hamilton for 40 minutes.
Yeah.
And that's with the border. For 40 minutes. I could be sitting down at Judy's right now. Judy's my spot in Niagara Falls, New York.
Yeah.
You go to Judy's, you get a beer, you get a pizza, you get some wings, maybe you get a beef on weck sandwich.
Yeah.
$40.
That's insane.
$40.
This is the difference.
I'm talking, we're getting beef on weck pizza. We're getting like, the best wings you're going to have.
Yeah.
Is that like, what's a beer there? $3.50 a bottle?
But it doesn't really matter. It's still cheaper. You're getting a lot more value. And this is the difference with just a few minutes south of the border. Again, these are other reasons why a lot of Canadians, including ourselves, are shifting our whole approach, whether it's life or investing, into the U.S. market. It's not far away. It's almost the same people, the same everything.
Yeah.
But it's just cheaper and better.
Yeah. Yeah. It's not that I don't pay attention to pricing. I don't do a lot of the shopping myself. My wife does a lot of the shopping, so I don't really get to see all the pricing. But what I do buy, I bought on the weekend, was a bag of ice.
Yeah.
I don't do most of the shopping. My wife does most of the shopping, but I did buy something over the weekend, and it was a bag of ice. It was $4. It was $4 for the bag of ice. That is crazy.
Yeah.
You know, I don't get how the little things in life of buying a bag of ice for a cold beer is just so expensive.
Yeah.
And I talk about beer prices.
And now you want to think, okay, I should make my own ice.
Yeah, I should freeze a water bottle. I should freeze a water bottle.
Yeah, and then just go and like knife it out.
Yeah.
Just get it going. Yeah, I've struggled. Am I just getting older and I'm starting to go back into the classic mindset of, in my day, things were affordable and it made sense. Is that what's happening, or are things actually getting worse? Am I thinking now that like I can afford a bag of ice? It's not a problem. But I think sometimes on a principle, I'm just like,
it's the principle. It's $4.
Yes. Like
You brought up the fast food. When I was in high school, a big thing was dollar drinks at McDonald's.
Yeah.
Because the end of school is happening.
They still have them.
End of school is happening. Yeah, but you used to be able to get a large pop or a large iced coffee for $1.
Okay.
There was no stipulations on the dollar drinks. Now, to get a large, you have to pay more.
Yeah, but it's still about.
I know, but what's the point? They're not losing money.
Big companies. Well, they arguably they are. I'm sure they have their own metrics. I don't know how that
That's
works.
ridiculous.
Some companies have their lost leaders for selling. Like I think McDonald's does their $1 coffees, hot coffees in the winter, and they do $1 iced coffees in the summer. And I know because like my brother particularly, he's genetically a deal hunter.
Yeah.
So he will go where the offers are, right? And sometimes he's the kind of guy who will drive around the parking lot 3 times to find the best parking.
Yeah.
Right? Even if it wastes a little more time because he gets the satisfaction of doing that. And that's fine.
Yeah.
Right? But the thing is that some companies still make these offerings, and yes, they get a little bit more expensive. But in all honesty, come on. It's like saying, oh, the Costco hot dog is no longer $1, it's $1.50.
No, it never changed price. It's always
been $1.50.
It's always
Oh yeah, it's $1.50. But they like the pop with it. $1.50 at Costco for a hot dog and a pop. I don't even know.
Great deal.
Yeah.
Drop a comment if you ever went to Costco and just spent $1.50 though, because I've never ever done that.
If you're gonna commit to navigating the parking lot, you're probably gonna be like, okay, I might as well and see what they have.
Yeah.
Even at Costco, if we're talking about things getting more expensive, remember I saw like a 4-pack of steaks and it was like $87 for a 4-pack,
which is a good deal if you bought the steaks versus going to keg.
Yeah, that's crazy, right? A lot of this value-driven mindset, right? Like, okay, regardless of whether or not things are actually getting more expensive, and it's regardless of whether or not it's actually challenging. I think for some of us who are witnessing the change, it affects our principles, right? So I think we naturally start to think, okay, what's a better way to do it? Because we have these mental thresholds of like, okay, I don't want to be spending more than like $800 on groceries a month, right? If I am, I should probably be thinking about at what point does it become excessive? And I guess if you're focused on income, that's what we encourage a lot of real estate investors to do, is focus on income so that this stuff becomes less and less of a problem, because you can only save so much.
Yeah.
But there's certain things that I combine with just more sensible and healthier habits. Like for me, for example, I think I told you we did this. Alan and I, we ordered a whole bison.
Yeah.
Right? A whole bison was $3,000.
Okay.
Right? We split it between 6 people, $500 each, and it gives you a ton of meat.
Yeah.
Right? You can send it to the butcher, or you can do it yourselves, right? Like these guys, they like to do this stuff themselves, so they did it all themselves, but they cut it up. For $500, you'll probably get like 4 months worth of meat for a family.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
That's crazy. For equivalent, you're going to buy like 4, 8, 12, 16 steaks.
Yeah. Yeah.
If you go to Costco.
Yeah. It doesn't make sense how there's so many people still trying to live here. And I guess that's how they're boosting the economy. But there needs to be changes that happen, not only in food prices and groceries, how that either needs to start going down or stay on track at least, so we're not seeing those big jumps. And our housing, we need to huge problems that don't get overnight and don't get solved with us talking about them here. Politicians have to stop being politicians and do something for this company. They have to do something for their country. I want to start politicians to think that you drive down the street's probably named after somebody. Even if you don't, all the streets around here probably named after somebody. We're doing something great.
Yeah.
All the rec centers, the state, everyone's stadium.
Yeah, hospitals, everything,
Right? That's not going to happen anymore. Because politicians are too worried about getting their paycheck rather than make a difference. We won't see it anymore. You think we're going to see change Union Station to Trudeau Station? Not going to happen.
Not that.
You think we're going to change Union Station to John Tory Station to Olivia Chow Station? It's not going to happen.
No, because we're not really... Canada right now is not in the mode of, I think, like, building up great people. I think they're more in the mode of, like, making corrections, right? Like, even, for example, like, Ryerson changed their name, right?
Yeah.
Even though I never went to Ryerson, but I heard that they changed their name because there was like an issue with, I guess, Mr. Ryerson or whatever. Actually, I don't know too much about them. They changed their name. There was the statue of somebody that got
Sir John
down. Okay, Sir John A. Okay, yeah. So like, and this is in my peripheral. Like, I don't actually focus on this stuff because like I'm aware that this stuff happens, and then sometimes I catch wind. But the thing is that there's a lot of correcting that's happening as opposed to like, I think, building great names.
Yes.
And maybe there's a mentality of, oh, we have to tear everything down in order to make it better.
Yes.
But it's like, they're really tearing things down. They're really tearing things down.
Yeah.
Right?
And you have to think that we talk about our federal government been in power for elected twice. You know, we don't know if Trudeau's going to run for a third term.
Yeah.
It's just too long to be in power. Yeah. There needs to be maximum, so then you start caring about your changes rather than a huge pension and a huge paycheck. There should years and years and years.
There should be some accountability to promises where, like, maybe you set some bare minimum metrics that, like, there's like a business that if you can't hit them, like, election comes up again. Like, if you do not hit your stats, you do not handle things properly, there should be just opportunity elections that happen if you can't hit your stats. Like, they shouldn't be allowed to just go and promise.
Yeah,
and then completely...
If it was a business, you would get fired. If you're the CEO, you said you're going to do X, Y, and Z. You don't do X, Y, and Z, you're going to get fired. We're going to hire a new CEO.
Yeah, 100%. And by the way, to that point, and this might be a little bit controversial, but the reason why a lot of Asian economies are on the upswing right now is because they can be fired in many cases. With exception of places like China.
Yeah. If the Chinese guy gets fired, he gets hung.
The leadership just said, you know, I can't be taken out of power. Right? And that's just now the new rule. Right? So that's a little bit different. But you look at places like the Philippines where there is a lot, they do have a lot of things coming, right? They're
call that a progressive government.
Exactly, right? So they're making moves, they're making changes, right? Whereas like over here, there's problems that are coming from the East that are affecting us from an economic perspective, and we're doing nothing to defend ourselves. And that's the truth. And like, I have family in Singapore, and I have family in the East, I have family in Europe, and honestly, in Europe, they're being affected in a similar way that we are. However, the European economy, in my opinion, isn't as potentially competitive as the North American economy at large. But Asia is dangerous from a productivity standpoint. Let's talk about that for a second, how Asia actually affects many things here. Let's talk about work-life balance. Why a lot of people are leaving Canada when they think about their work-life balance. Take this for example. Have you ever seen those old polls that say, hey, do you ever wonder how many hours does somebody spend, how long do women spend doing makeup and hair? Or how long do you spend on your cell phone in your life? And then you look at the numbers and you're like, that's crazy, right? How long? You should go on traffic earlier. People who have to still commute to work, let's just say in Toronto and Ontario, because that's going to have similar traffic situations to like BC, Victoria. How long do you think people spend on average in traffic? A one-way commute, so they just closed the Gardiner to the 2 lanes. Right now, average commute times are pushing an hour and a half one way, right? For people to have to go. Here's the thing. Let's just run some quick numbers, right? If you are commuting to work every day and you're going to spend an hour and a half traveling one way to work, right? We're talking about everything, getting ready, doing whatever. Even if you're taking the bus, waiting for the bus, taking whatever, an hour and a half each way. You're spending 3 hours a day, okay? If you go to work 5 days a week, you just do 3 times 5. That's 15 hours. First of all, in a week, that's almost 2 full working days. An 8-hour day times 2 is 16 hours. It's almost 2 full working days. Okay,
you're working 7 days a week.
And exactly. You're working 7 days. It's like you're working 7 days a week, and people don't get paid for that in many cases. Some people get their employers to cover like 407, which is also annoying that we pay for that because that was built with taxpayer money. But that's another story. But now let's take 15 hours and multiply that by 52 weeks in a year. That's 780 hours. Let's divide that by 8-hour days. 97 days. 97.5 days. Let's say you make $250 in a day. So we might multiply 97.5 times $250. That's $24,000
income
that you're traveling essentially for work that you're not getting paid for. And this is why a lot of people push and say, hey, I want to be able to work from home and this and that and the other. And it's just like, okay, well, when you really measure it out like that, I can see why some people would rather do that, because some people, I was talking to an uncle the other day and he was saying that, he commutes 3 hours traveling a day for back and forth, and he has to go to work twice a week. So even if you do that, like 3 hours a day times 2, that's 6 times
that's the new hybrid.
312 divided by 8, that's 39 times $250. He is leaving $9,750 on the table of working days, essentially
just going into work.
Now, if you multiply that into years, because that's essentially like in many cases, like an 8-hour day, that pretty much kills your whole day. Right.
I have to loop this back into politicians that make these decisions on, now again, I'm not as familiar with Toronto, but how the subway system works. They don't want anything underground.
The subway system doesn't work.
Yeah, but they don't want anything underground. Everything's up top where everything should be underground. And then there's people driving down the streets, and you can't have people driving down the street because of LRT. And it's a huge, Olivia Chow loves LRT and loves subways, or doesn't love subways, but loves everything about streetcars. The TC's going on strike on Friday, and what's everybody going to do? And surge pricing is going to be crazy. It is a nightmare because people aren't making those decisions now, because those things don't get fixed, next week, next month. They don't get fixed. It takes years and years and years to fix these problems. We have the Red Hill here. Right, those 2 lanes. Link's 2 lanes.
Yeah.
Next time you drive down there, please look at how much space is beside you.
Yeah.
All the grass.
No, dude.
Dude, it should be 3 lanes.
Don't even get me started.
Why is it not 3 lanes? There's so much room. Well, it doesn't even make sense.
When was the last time you were in Toronto?
Yeah, a couple months ago.
Okay, so
Yeah.
it's been a while. I was driving through the core 2 days ago, and I remember I saw traffic police.
Yeah.
Specific traffic police. These are guys
Yeah.
that are
With the whistle.
just sitting there with the whistle directing traffic. The traffic lights were working.
Yeah.
They were just there. And I was asking my buddy about it. I'm just like, what are these guys doing here? It's like, oh, the city now puts them to help the flow of traffic.
Yeah.
And I'm like, so we have traffic lights.
Red light, yellow light, green light.
No, it's crazy. And I guess part of it is that what a lot of Toronto drivers are doing right now is they're just mad rushing into trying to make the lane because they don't want to get stuck, right? And the other guys are just going into the turning lane. So I guess the traffic officer is there to prevent people from doing like overly aggressive things to get through the lights because everybody's now so mad and so impatient. This is also while they close the 2 lanes on the Garden.
I know.
Like the thing is that they're putting in these band-aid solutions. This is another way that public sector jobs are dwarfing private sector jobs. We now have employed a person to stand there alongside an automated system because the automated system is no longer good enough. It's just so stupid. This is like going into another one of these reasons why it's just like when you look at the direction that our country is going and how leadership is approaching solving problems, do I really want to continue to invest here or should I be investing in a place like certain states that, again, align with my values?
Yeah, and how the public service works is that police budget brings in the budget at the end of the year. This is our expenses. We need to increase X amount of dollars. And it needs to go through council, and it gets approved. But you need to read what we're spending money on. You're spending money on people to blow whistles.
Whistleblowers. Whistleblowers.
Yes, yeah, like legit whistleblowers. Like, enough's enough. That's ridiculous. My brother works downtown Toronto. He has to work a different shift now because of traffic. Okay, they're starting at 3 a.m. so they can be home before traffic. Because you can't work the 9 to 5. You can't work the 8 to 4. You can't even work the 7 to 3. You have to start super early, and he still gets stuck in traffic. Because maybe sometimes he work a 12-hour day. He doesn't get home till 6 o'clock. He's been sitting in traffic for 2.5 hours.
That's nonsense. My fiance, she drives to work. She has to go in once a week, and she goes from Hamilton to Vaughan, and the difference, she takes a 407 every time.
You have to take a 407.
And that's also because it goes literally right there.
Yeah.
The 407, it takes her 3 minutes to get there.
Yeah.
To drive, it would take her an hour and 45 minutes.
I know.
Right?
And the 407's empty.
Yeah.
It's very expensive. I took the 407, especially in the summer when we're leaving the city a lot. I always take the 407. It is so expensive.
How much does it cost to go like
from one end
across?
and $30?
One way?
No, both ways.
Okay.
Yeah, $130.
Transponder?
No, $130.
Well, transponder actually doesn't save you very much money.
I think it saves $10 each way, or $10, $20. I don't know. Someone will.
Yeah. Okay.
I forget what they charge you for a photo.
Yeah, I think it saves you like 5 or 10%. But anyway.
It is so expensive.
Yeah. If you're going to work and you clear, like let's say you're making $25 an hour, right?
Those numbers are
and then
ridiculous.
you work an 8-hour day. So like you're essentially putting your half your paycheck to the 407 if that's what you're doing. So if you think about it, how much of your daily paycheck would you put towards the 407 if you had to take it? If you had to take that cost and your employer wasn't going to pay for it, how much would you have to be making? I wouldn't want to put more than like 10% of my cost, my income towards. But in this case, it's like 50%, or in some cases 25%. Because of $100, if you're making $400, clearing $400 in a day, I still wouldn't want to put 25% of my income towards that commute.
Yeah, the problem is that you can't time it up anymore. That you can just leave later, use the Waze app, and just time it up.
Yeah,
it doesn't work like that. Like once 3 o'clock hits in Toronto, that's what I hear. It's nuts. My friend's actually down. Blue Jays played on Sunday and they played Monday. Home games. He's not from around here, from out east. He's a big baseball guy. I said, why didn't you go to Jays game? He was like, oh, I didn't think you'd want to go. I was like, you should have told me. And then I realized, I was like, okay, the game Monday is at 7 o'clock. By the time we get home, 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock. I'm 40 minutes away. It should not be 1, 2 o'clock for me to get home.
Yeah, it's troublesome, right? And then people who are working in the city really start to question it, right? It's because so many Canadians have gone to other countries and who have even just gone a little down south of the state have come back and they're just like, what am I doing here?
Yeah, the trail is so much better.
Right? Everything, right?
So much better.
I remember one time I was in the car with my friend and he has a condo just off of York, I think it is, right? And I remember we got stuck and his condo garage was literally like 1 block away. And we were stuck a block away for 2.5 hours in the car.
Crazy.
2.5 hours we were just stuck on York Boulevard, on York Street in Toronto, 1 block away from his condo. We couldn't even pull over to the side and park, right? Because you can't park there. We were just at dead stop and like we had no idea. And at some point we just kind of eventually creeped because enough people got fed up and they did some mad illegal things and then just got out of there. And then we were able to get into the garage. But it's crazy. 2.5 hours, right? That was one of the main reasons why I moved out of Toronto, is because like now I'm thinking like I want to move even further and further away from all this nonsense, right? It's just crazy, man.
Yeah. And I said it earlier that these decisions need to be made now. It's not going to be tomorrow that they're fixed, a couple of years from now. So somebody needs to step up and want a building named after themselves and make these decisions.
Yeah.
Instead of a paycheck.
100%.